Now let's see if they fit the questions being posed. So hope that helped. Good luck as you continue down the home stretch of auditing, and we'll see you on the next video. Mike Brown here, and I'm guessing when you first look at this question, it didn't look that bad, right? Because considering some of the ones you've already faced as you work through this section of the course, you probably go, oh, well, geez, there's only 6 questions and there's no exhibits. And even the instructions are pretty short. This doesn't look that bad until you clicked on that first box and went, holy mackerel, because there's a ton of answers and they're not even the same. They vary. So this is one of those questions that's a bit deceptive in how challenging it might have been, but hopefully you figured out a couple of things. One is that the answers appear in pairs. You might have noticed that. Cash and AR share the same list of answers. Inventory and fixed assets have the same list of answers, and accounts payable and debt have the same list of answers. So they're done in pairs. The other thing I hoped you noticed is how many answers were just on their face not valid for this kind of a question. And that's really the easiest way to tackle this one, is to the extent you can eliminate answer choices. But let's take a quick look at the instructions. It says, during the review of KD, the engagement manager obtained a trial balance and identified these 6 accounts as warranting further review. And it's a review engagement. For each of the accounts, click on the cell and pick the most appropriate response. All right. But here's what I want to do. I want to eliminate responses. And the key thing to remember is this is a review. And reviews come down to 2 specific procedures more often than not. Inquiry and analytical procedure. If it sounds like an audit procedure, it's wrong. So anything that sounds or uses language that you would expect to see in an audit procedure, you know it can't be right. So with that in mind, let's tackle the first pair. All right, so I'm going to use my pen here. I'm going to start to disqualify any answers that just don't make sense for review. Remember, reviews, analytical procedures, and inquiries, what I'm looking for. Okay, are any investments encumbered? Well, that's a question. Okay, I can leave that one alone. Are there compensating balances or other restrictions on the availability of funds? That's an inquiry. Okay. Has there been a proper cutoff? Now, that one might be tricky because you'd say, ooh, cutoff. That's a financial statement assertion. That sounds like an audit procedure. It's not testing cutoff. It's asking, has there been? It's an inquiry. So those 3 are good. But look at the next 4. Prepare and sign confirmations. Nope. Confirmations an audit procedure. The word trace. Tracing an outstanding list to bank statements. So we're talking about outstanding checks in all likelihood? No. If I could draw a straight line, that would be a bonus. Please provide the following sample of account reconciliations for reperformance. That's another audit procedure. Please provide the interest income report for recalculation. Recalculation is an audit procedure. So in fact, there's not 7 answer choices. There are 3. So all I need to do now is to say, would any of these be valid for cash or AR? Or by the same token, could I get rid of any of them for the same reason? Yeah, that first one. That's not cash or AR, that's investments. So I've got 2 possible answers, and I've got 2 questions. Seems like that first one, are there compensating balances? That's a good cash question. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that one. And for AR, cutoff would make sense because AR comes from sales. So that seems like an appropriate question there. So really, it wasn't about necessarily, in fact, the very last thing I did, and it became fairly straightforward, was matching up the accounts. Before that, I just looked at the procedures themselves and said, do those make sense in a review or not? Let's try the next pair. That's inventory and fixed assets. Well, once again, prepare and sign confirmations. Nope. Confirmations, Provide copies of the following sample to vouch or voucher current year editions. Nope. That is a substantive audit procedure. That doesn't work. Provide a sample for reperformance. Still no. Were consignments in or out considered in the physical count? That's a question. All right, that one I can leave. What are the company's capitalization policies? Have those been consistently and appropriately applied? That's a question. What are the policies? Did you follow them? And lastly, when will the physical inventory count and fixed asset reviews occur? Now, if they had stopped there, I'd go, I guess you could ask that, but they didn't. It said, so that I may coordinate our observation. Observation is an object. Once again, my lack of straight line drawing notwithstanding, there's only two possible answers. One must go with inventory, I would think, and one with fixed assets. Consignments, that's valid for inventory. So we'll go ahead and use that one. And fixed assets must be the other one, which is the capitalization policies. So for the first two pairs, just eliminating answers that make no sense for a review got us 90% of the way there. We got one pair to go. Are there assets that have been pledged as collateral? That's a question. Okay. Have all liabilities been appropriately accrued? No, it's not testing, right? It's not the search for unrecorded liabilities. It's asking a question. So that one's okay. Confirmations, we already know. Recalculate the loan amortization schedule. Now notice it says, please provide an explanation why it doesn't recalculate. You might think, well, what's wrong with that? The problem is that we wouldn't have even come up with that evidence if we hadn't done an audit procedure. So asking the question is fine, but the fact we know that we recalculated and it comes up incorrect, we wouldn't have that information. So that doesn't really fit. Provide a sample for reperformance? Nope. And then, as I mentioned, this is not the search, because the search for unrecorded liabilities, the last answer, that is a substantive auditing procedure. So one more time, we're down to two possible answers. One is pledging assets as collateral. That sounds like a debt question. And the other one is accruing liabilities, which would make sense for accounts payable and accrued expenses. So I'm going to use have all liabilities been accrued for that one. And I'm going to use have any assets been pledged as collateral for that one. And if we hit show solution, we've got all green, which is great. So hopefully that helps. Definitely, you may face a question that has nothing to do with the content that we dealt with here, but you might see one with a similar style where they're giving you a big list of potential answers. But if you simply review the list first, you may be able to disqualify some of the answers, which will make your job significantly easier to basically laser in on, okay, these are the only answers that make any sense at all. Now let's see if they fit the questions being posed. So hope that helped. Good luck as you continue down the home stretch of auditing, and we'll see you on the next video.